Alright, so recently at UFC 311, Islam Makhachev submitted Renato Moicano, basically cementing himself as the lightweight GOAT. However, not a lot of people talk about Islam Makhachev in terms of the GOAT conversation, okay? I think Islam Makhachev has a very strong case to be top 5 of all time, and even with a couple more wins, I think he could maybe even be the greatest of all time. Anyway, let me know who you guys think is the GOAT right now, whether it's Jon Jones, GSP, or Anderson Silva, and write it down there. I'd really appreciate if you could like and subscribe. We're so close to 500 subs. Anyway, let me get into it. Now, it really surprises me that not a lot of people talk about Islam Makhachev as possibly being one of the greatest of all times. I mean, he's on an insanely long win streak. His resume is absolutely insane. He's so good everywhere. Like, his striking is elite, his grappling is insanely elite, and yet people talk more about Alex Pereira being the GOAT. It's kind of crazy to me, if I'm being honest. Now, what is Islam Makhachev missing from becoming the GOAT and maybe even surpassing Jones? I think the biggest thing right now would probably be the title defenses, okay? He only has 4 title defenses. You know, it is the lightweight record for the most title defenses, but overall, it's really not that many. But the thing is, that is a good number of title defenses in the modern day. I think title defenses is something that we need to move away from as a standard for who is the greatest of all time and whatnot, because it really makes no sense when you think about it, okay? Because the level of competition that DJ and Anderson Silva were defending against were like absolutely terrible, okay? Compare that to Islam Makhachev fighting Volkanovski, Charles Oliveira, Dustin Poirier. I think those wins over Volkanovski and Charles Oliveira are just worth way more than any amount of title defenses, okay? Beating a guy who is like top 10 all time is just way more important than defending your belt against like some random cans, okay? Some random plumbers they just picked off the street. Like, I don't see how you can compare that at all. So I don't think title defenses are that important for Islam Makhachev's career. Obviously, I think that title defenses are important, but it's just that the level of competition has got so much better to the point where it's basically impossible to get like the insane amount of title defenses that Anderson Silva and DJ were able to get, okay? Because the competition is never going to be that bad again, you know, to the point where they're getting like Tim Elliott off Tough just to fight DJ. It's like, that's never going to happen with Islam Makhachev. He's not going to get those easy fights, you know? So I don't really understand why title defenses are held so importantly. Again, I do think that they're important, but I think they're a very overrated like measure of how good someone is. And another thing that I think Islam Makhachev is missing from being the GOAT is probably 2 belts, okay? Showing your dominance in 2 different weight classes is very important, okay? Jon Jones did it, GSP did it, Anderson Silva and, you know, DJ, they weren't able to do that, but I still think that having 2 belts is a very important measure on how good you are, because if you're able to dominate 2 different weight classes, I mean, it's just way easier to measure your skill as a whole rather than just one division. Now, what case does Islam Makhachev have for being the GOAT? I think he has a lot of things going for him that people do not talk about at all, and I have no idea why, okay? I think the most obvious thing, and I think the most inarguable thing, is the win streak. I think the win streak that Islam Makhachev is on is insane. He's almost tying Anderson Silva's record. I think he's 1 off. He's at 15. Anderson Silva's was 16. And Islam Makhachev, I just think if you compare the win streak of Anderson Silva to Islam Makhachev's, it's just not even close, okay? Again, beating Volkanovski, beating Charles Oliveira, beating Dustin Poirier is way better than, like, you know, my, like, uncle that, you know, Anderson Silva fought ages ago. You know, it's just not really the same type of competition there. And now comparing Islam Makhachev to all the other guys in the top 5, outside of Jon Jones, I will talk about him later because I do think Jon Jones is obviously the GOAT, and I think he's the only real competition for Islam Makhachev. I might be glazing maybe, but I think by the end of Islam Makhachev's career, I don't think it's going to be like a big argument to say that Islam Makhachev surpasses guys like GSP, DJ, and Anderson Silva. And the only guys who are going to say otherwise are like the old heads who swear that Anderson Silva is actually the GOAT, bro. GSP would absolutely mug every single person, you know? And GSP, these guys were good, but bro, Islam Makhachev is really like another level, okay? So I think Islam Makhachev, in my opinion, I just think he clears all those other guys, you know? Anderson Silva, DJ, GSP, I just think he clears all of them just because his title defenses, the guys he was defending against, his resume is just so much better. And on top of that, skill-wise, I just think Islam Makhachev clears all those guys, okay? You might disagree with me, and that is fine. It's really all up to your opinion. I don't know if I think he's there right now, but I think by the end of his career, he for sure will have surpassed like guys like Silva, DJ, and GSP, okay? Now, for Jon Jones, okay, I haven't mentioned him specifically because I think there is just, it is so close between these guys, okay? Islam Makhachev is so insanely skilled and his resume is so good, but Jones has all of that too, okay? He has incredible striking, very, very skilled grappling, okay? His resume is insane. On top of that, he has a ton of title wins, and on top of that, he does hit and runs on pregnant women. If that doesn't make him the GOAT, I don't know what does. But I think when you compare Islam Makhachev and Jon Jones, it's really what you care about more in terms of the GOAT conversation. Because if you compare the resume, I think the resume is the best point of this. If you compare Jon Jones and Islam Makhachev's resume, look, Jon Jones' resume is, like I said earlier, absolutely insane. He's beat so many legends. But it's like when you look at those legends, were those guys actually like that good? Okay, I know those guys were great, but are those wins like Volkanovski, Charles Oliveira level good? Like, I don't think so, okay? But he has so many of them. It's like Machida, Rua, DC, bro. These guys are insane. Like, even if they aren't to the level of like a Volkanovski or Charles Oliveira, which DC is, by the way. I know I'm not really talking about it, but still, DC is definitely up there as a really, really great win, and it definitely compares with Volkanovski and Charles Oliveira. But still, look, even though John Jones doesn't really have as many of those Volkanovski, Charles Oliveira level wins, there's so many of them that it kind of doesn't really matter, okay? And it really just depends what you care about more, whether it's quality or quantity. But as for pure skill, I think this is something that not a lot of people take into account when considering who's the best, which is like crazy to me, because I feel like Islam Makhachev is one of these guys who's like clearly one of the like greatest, like most skilled fighters of all time. I don't know if that's glaze, but bro, I genuinely believe that Islam Makhachev is probably the most skilled fighter of all time. Like, I don't think there's anybody better than this guy, okay? Islam Makhachev is a top 3 striker and a top 3 grappler, like, at the same time. He's just that good right now in the UFC, okay? So Islam Makhachev, he has the Dagestani wrestling background. His striking is very elite. And I think one thing that Jones doesn't have that Islam Makhachev does have is the strength, okay? Islam Makhachev has that knockout power. He has the speed that John Jones just doesn't really have. Even though John Jones was on steroids, which is like crazy to me how he doesn't have that. But in the striking, I think Islam Makhachev is more like technically better. He has a lot more power, so he's able to rely on that. I think his kicks are very powerful. His boxing is really good. But at the same time with John Jones, he's such a much more like smarter fighter, okay? Like, maybe he doesn't have the power to really put guys out, but the way that he strikes on the feet, it's not really about him being better than you at striking necessarily. He's just so much smarter than you that he can basically just do whatever he wants, okay? Like, he has very good, like, the oblique kicks is very good. His boxing is pretty good. Like, he's very technically strong everywhere. But right now, I'd probably give the striking advantage to Jones, even though he's not the best striker, okay? Islam Makhachev, I still think he has better boxing, and he's also way more powerful, but John Jones is just so technically good, it's hard to not give him the edge in the striking. But I think by the end of Islam Makhachev's career, he's going to be the better striker than Jones. He just needs to keep getting better rather than maintaining. But now in the grappling, I just don't think this is close at all. I think Islam Makhachev is the way better like grappler here. Like, I know people are gonna like hear that and think it's like ridiculous. John Jones is a very talented grappler, okay? His jiu-jitsu is very good. His ground and pound is very good as well. He can just find shots from everywhere. But bro, Islam Makhachev, his grappling is like so insanely high level, okay? His ground and pound, I think Jones probably has better ground and pound, but positionally, I think Islam Makhachev is way better, and submission-wise, I also think Islam Makhachev is way better. His tools on the ground is insane. His jiu-jitsu game is so like crafty. I just really don't think it's close there at all. So striking, I would give to Jones, and grappling, I think I'd give to Islam. And overall, I just want to talk about one more thing career-wise. John Jones has been popped for steroids quite a few times, okay? And Islam Makhachev, to our knowledge, has not been popped for steroids. I think he did get popped for something a while back. But I mean, now, like recently, at championship level, Islam Makhachev has not been popped for anything. And I think that is somewhat important, because I do think it taints John Jones' career when you like think about him as the GOAT. It's like, would he have been able to do all those things if he wasn't on steroids? He probably would have, though, which is, I think, the thing that kind of saves John Jones, because it's like, even if he wasn't on steroids, I think like he probably would have beaten a majority of those guys that he did beat. Like, even the Daniel Cormier fight, like, he probably would have won that fight either way. But yeah, that's really it. That's all that I want to say about this. I don't know if I necessarily consider like Islam top 5 right now. When I was talking about Islam in this video, I just mean in the future. Like, by the end of his career, I think he will have surpassed a lot of these guys, and I think maybe could be John Jones' like only competition at being the GOAT. I really do not see anyone else even like coming close, if I'm being honest, bro. I think Islam Makhachev is the only guy. He has the win streak, he has the resume, he has the skill. I think he definitely could surpass John Jones at some point. And yeah, so when I was saying that he surpassed like GSP, Anderson Silva, and like DJ, I think that's going to be like in a couple years time. I don't know if I necessarily think that right now. But yeah, that's going to be it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Let me know what you thought. And yeah, that's going to be it. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. Alright.